I'm super excited to show you Nuked, a radioactive Knave hack. This is created by Mac and Non-Dairy Giant. It is a short booklet, but it contains so much within the short amount of pages, and so much especially for the soloist who wants to kind of venture into a post-apocalyptic sci-fi game with exploration, adventure, survival. And the materials here are really supportive of solo play, I think. This video is going to just be a flip through and discussion of how one could set up a game of Nuked for oneself, and just to highlight and show you what is offered in here. So the basic premise of the game, as you will know if you know anything about Knave, is there's no classes. Every PC is a scrapper, a bunker-busting, adventure-seeking miscreant who can pick up and use a powerful pre-blast relic as easily as a spiked baseball bat. And I should say here, the conceit of the world is that there has been a blast. Something has happened, and you are the remaining people in this world. And it says whatever world used to exist was wiped out during the blast. Now we're all stuck with what's left. So there's an open-ended kind of world there, but you could build that out as you wished or not. It says a PC's role in the crew is determined largely by the equipment they carry and the perks and mutations they pick up along the way. Their D20 rolls, we'll get into how that works in a moment. And it is designed with a single currency system. So there's scrap, which could be anything from bits of copper wire to a brass bullet casings. And that is the currency or the value in the game. Advancement in this game, there's a list of 50 levelless perks and mutations to help provide character advancement and customization. It says don't just get stronger, get weirder. So we'll see how that goes as we get into it. You have 6 abilities here. They are muscle, which is essentially like strength for melee attacks and actions requiring physical power, agility for things using speed, so essentially dexterity, guts, and guts is used for actions to resist radiation, sickness, poison, and not giving into fear. Additionally, your guts value is going to give you the item slots that you can have. So essentially, it's like constitution. Brains is essentially intelligence, using concentration, precision, anything involving relics, and we'll come to see what that is. Sense is wisdom. It's used for range attacks as well as awareness. And weird is used for actions involving personality and mutations. And the way the values work, the maximum value is 18 on any of them. I like the way this works because you are assured a certain value here, which isn't going to be horribly low. You're rolling 2d6 plus 6 for every value. So basically at an actual minimum, you're going to be in an 8, but you're rolling 2d6 plus 6. So you're rolling that ability, and then you can swap the scores of any 2 abilities with each other. I skipped over here. The essential core rules, or the way this works, is you are rolling a d20 and you're comparing it to your ability test being used, and you need to roll equal or below your own ability. So if you have an ability of 17, you're rolling a d20, you need to roll 17 or less in order for that to be successful. There can be opposed tests where you are, whatever it is, you're both doing an agility test, and the character who rolled highest in that test while still succeeding in the test will prevail. You can have advantage and disadvantage, and here, playing as the soloist, I think this is something that one would employ a lot just thematically and narratively to support your story, where you're rolling 2d20 and using the better result of whatever you get. Combat is pretty simple as well. You are rolling an agility test to see who goes first, and then you are using your attack based on what we talked about earlier in terms of the ability that goes with it, whether it's melee or ranged attack. There can be counterattacks and dodge, and a lot of this does involve ability as the role. You are going to take a reduction on your HP. If you get to 0 HP, when you're below that, you are dead, and then you can roll up a new character. Your HP is going to be a 1d8, and you get a benefit here, which is that you get some grit points, which allow you to re-roll die, and that is going to be 8 minus your HP. So the lower your HP, the higher the grit or the re-roll points that you get to sort of help you out will be. It describes some types of danger. There's acid, energy, physical poison, and radiation, and these are sort of thematic danger points. If you have an option to deal damage, you can choose to pull off a stunt instead. The intended effect of the stunt is proposed to the GM before the attack, and if it's successful, the target of the stunt can then choose to suffer the effects of the stunt or take damage. If the stunt occurs, the GM describes the effects and play continues. I like this for the soloist because sometimes combat can get a little lengthy, I think, and take one out of the excitement of a game when you're just playing both sides, as it were, and rolling dice. And something like a stunt like this would allow you to interject into a combat, just a narrative element, a story element to advance things along. And I think that could be really helpful. You can recover your 1d8 HP after rest. And if you go without food, water, and sleep for more than 24 hours, you become deprived. And that has an impact. You are gaining a fatigue, which is going to take up a slot in your inventory. So you will need to, if you're playing with this aspect of the rule, and it does make thematic sense, of course, in a world that's post-apocalyptic, that having rest and energy and food and rations would be important, you'll need to come up with a way of marking time and counting the things that you do as expending time to know when you need to rest. If you rest at a safe haven, you can restore all your lost HP and remove your fatigue. When you're creating your character, you're going to be rolling twice on this perks and mutations table. This is a D50 table, and we'll do a couple rolls here to give a sense of what this looks like. So it's a D50 table, and you can do that however you like. You could either have your value, so there's a 98, that we could count that as a 49. So let's take a look at what that would be. We're going to be rolling this at the outset. When you create your character, you roll twice on it and choose one. 49, vestigial wings. You grow a stunted pair of fleshy wings, allowing you to glide up to L times 10 feet. So I don't know, that's probably not something I would want. So let's see, if I was creating my character, I would get the option also of 24. Nimble Dodger. Whenever you successfully dodge an attack, you reduce damage by 1d6 instead of 1d4. Well, I would definitely take that for sure. So if I was creating my character and that had been my role, that's what I would have taken. And as you go through it says, as you go through the game, you are going to be rolling on this table to get more options and things. There are usage die items here: rations, water, gasoline, as well as some equipment. A usage die item will be something that when you start with it, it will come with a certain usage die, like a D10 or whatever. And then every time you use it, you need to do a test to see if you used it up. And if you roll, I think it's if you roll a 1 on that die, then you go down a die. So for example, these do represent how often you can use it. So when you use the item as part of an ability test and a fail or use a consumable item, you roll that usage die. Oh, on a roll of 1 to 2, you drop the usage die down one size. So you go from D10 to D8, etc. If you go from D4 to 0, then you have used it up or it breaks. So you will be forced again to either look around for things, find a way to rest, or things won't be static in the game. You roll a d20 for armor. You roll a d20 for weapons. You get some gear. You roll twice to determine your gear, and these all have a usage die of 6. And there's questions here. How did you come across these valuable pieces of equipment? So you could start to create the story of your character based on the kinds of things that you have. And there is essentially a trinkets table here, which is I love. As you know, if you watch my channel, I talk a lot about the importance of trinkets in creating a character or even a world. So there's a D100 table here of trinkets, and we'll give it a roll here to see a couple things. We get to roll twice on this table when we're starting out and see what trinkets we might have, 32, and how that could inform our story about ourselves. So we have, 2 6-sided dice. Maybe it's an old GM wandering around who survived, and a 12. 2 6-sided dice and a deflated football. So that is some junk that you have, and it says, while its use might not be obvious, you might find junk can come in handy. So with these items, you can start to, as I said, create your character. Some gear here. We got a flashlight. And let's see, we would also have, a tent. That sounds pretty good. We have physique, scars, fashion that we're wearing, a virtue and a vice. And again, this is a D12 roll here. So our virtue is we are loyal. Well, that is true. And we are whingy. Now, whingy, this is a very specific whingy. I don't know how to explain what that is if you don't know what that means. A complainer, I guess? That's not a term I really use, but I guess that's what I would say. Let's see. My background here is 20, a wild clanner. I'm not sure what that would mean in this context, so I'd have to think about that. We have some name options I'll skip over. And we talked about, let's see, when you accumulate 1,000 XP, you gain a level. In order to earn this, you have to uncover caches of valuable pre-blast material, colloquially referred to as hauls. So there is a search element here. Whenever you leave a site where you collected these items, you are going to upgrade your haul and be awarded XP using the chart below as reference. So there is a searching element, as mentioned, to what you're doing here, and you will then use that to gain a level. When you do gain a level, you roll a number of d8s equal to the new level to find your new HP maximum. So that's pretty good, because starting out with an HP of 1d8 can be pretty rough. There are vehicles in this game, and they have 2 ability scores, mobility and hull, that can be used in place of your character's abilities if you're driving something. And they have can be used for tests to avoid a hazard, outrun another vehicle, or such. There's also vehicle combat. I mean, this is not something I probably would do myself in solo play. It's a little bit too much, but there's only 2 stats here, so I think you could, it wouldn't be too bad to model that into a game, even if you didn't usually do it. Relics are pre-blast things that have been left behind, and if you want to use it, you have to succeed on a brains test. So again, as a reminder, you need to roll your at or below your brains ability on a d20 to use it. And it says that it will operate for 24 hours until you have to roll a usage die for that item. So these things are not going to be permanent, but they could be very helpful. There is a store here, as it were, things that you can buy that cost scrap. And I don't know whether it said we started out with any scrap or not. I'm not sure. I don't see that, but maybe I missed it. And here are the details on what we rolled up, for example, with the armor. So, for example, if we were rolling up some armor here and we ended up starting out with a light armor and a light shield, we can see here what it does for us. So the light shield, what the cost is, how many slots it takes, what the usage die is, what it will do for us, and we had light armor as well. So those are the tables that go to explain. Ditto for all of the weapons. You can make your own relic weapons, and it explains how you can do that. So there's some flexibility here in just designing things that sound cool to you. Some charts and tables for clothing, lodging, food, animals, medical supply. We already looked at the junk table. And here's more about leveling up. PCs gain powers by learning perks or picking up mutations. Some are passive, some are always on. Others can only be used a few times a day. You can earn an XP to advance in level, and when you do that, you roll twice on the table and select one. It says that the odd results are mutations, and the even results are perks. So you get a 50% chance of getting something good. We looked at some of those. Let's just do another. We'll just roll a couple more times on that and see what some of the other options are. 48. Witness me. Whenever you roll a natural 1 on an attack or test, describe the badassery of your action and give an ally advantage on their next attack or test. I like that. I like that one. And 34 is going to be something good again, yes? Silent but deadly. Whenever you successfully catch a target unawares with an attack, you automatically explode your first weapon damage die roll. That's pretty cool. So this does have the exploding die roll where you can continue to roll if you roll the high value on something. And all right, let's just look at a negative one. So an odd one. Stretch Armstrong. You can stretch various parts of your body to L times 10 feet in any direction. Well, that's a mutation. I don't know that it's a bad one, though. All right. This is the GM section now. So we're on page 25 of the 39-page book. Got the character sheet at the back here. And it talks about establishing rules about your wasteland and how much you're going to go into detail about what happened and the impacts of it. And it sort of explains play fast and loose with the science. Radiation mutates, it doesn't kill, for example. The pre-blast world should have ended in the not too distant future so that you are not finding technology that doesn't quite exist yet. Civilization barely exists. It's recommending, because this is an exploration game, it's recommending using a point crawling system that when it's time for the PCs to head out and explore the scorched earth, you determine how long that it's going to take. You could do this by a roll of whatever type of dice you chose, and talking about if they have a vehicle or not, whether to reduce the time. It says roll a d6 for each day to determine if something happens. On a 1 or 2, they're going to have a challenging encounter. On a 3, 4, 5, nothing major. And on a 6, they're going to uncover a nice benefit or secret, a friendly NPC, or an unpillaged cache of supplies, perhaps. This here is really the core to creating a solo session, because this table, this rando encounters table, roll 3d20, is going to be the backbone of the story that you're creating, the place that you're going, what you're doing, as we'll see. So we rolled an 18, a 1, and a 6. So in this case, we come across 2d10 tragos. We'll find out what that is. 1 says abandoned, and 6 says grocery store. So it's giving you a place and a description of that place. And there is a list here of all of the mutations that you are going to come across. And let's take a look and see, what is a trago? It is a lower functioning mutant, barely more than a beast. It never backs down. It's too stupid to be afraid. It's basically like some type of vermin. It swarms and overwhelms. It's drawn to radiation. And it says increase HD by 3 and add the ground zero mutation for an irradiated variant. Well, so right away, if we were starting out in an abandoned grocery store with these things crawling around, that's very, very thematic immediately. That was just an example of a random encounter here. And it explains that you are essentially starting out as an exploration by rolling this D6 to see what happens, so that if I had rolled that 1, it would have sent me to that table in effect for that type of encounter. There are the progress clock. Well, and actually, let me just continue back that as you're setting up to get back to you need to roll your usage die for your rations, water, and gasoline if you're using a vehicle, and it's a reminder here of what will happen to your items. So there is a sort of rush against time to see if things are going to be used up. If you're doing something, it could take more than a few seconds to carry out, so you can do this progress clock, and here are some examples of ones that take a certain amount of time to do. And whenever you succeed on an agility test, you can mark off a segment. So agility, as you can see, is a pretty important stat here, and you as the GM would be deciding how long something would take. This is an explanation of more combat, and I'm not going to go into that. We already mentioned that briefly here. And then you get I guess there's probably 20 of these, I think. Let's see, maybe 21 enemies that you could encounter in your world. And here's one, a roacher, a cockroach roughly the size of a rat. Well, I live in New York City. I have seen this roacher, I'll tell you. It's often part of a swarm. When it's killed, it rolls an agility test. If it succeeds, it comes back at 1 HP. Yes, it does. That's true. And there is a small adventure here at the end with a map, some hooks, etc. We won't get into that. And I will, at the end here, there's the credits at the end. So I guess we'll show them here at the end. Make sure that I show you all of these, and this is something I think you, as the soloist, the rando encounters table will take you a long way toward getting into this as a solo game. It probably needs something like I'm struggling for the word, and I don't have this in a deck. The sort of cyberpunk, that's not the right word. I'll put the word down here. Version of this card deck. I'm also forgetting what this card deck is called, but I think that you could pair Nuked with even just this card deck and a basic kind of yes/no table to create a session for yourself, or to create even a campaign for yourself in this type of radioactive post-apocalyptic world. We look here at the pretty simple character sheet, which for this type of solo play, I think simple is great because it really allows for a lot of room for narrative development and creativity and on-the-fly changes and things like that. So that is a look inside of Nuked. If you want to pick up something that is in a radioactive sort of post-apocalyptic world that you can get into and run pretty quickly with a very useful random encounters table, I recommend checking this out.